Good morning or good afternoon. This video will be going over the attachment here, the Slope-Intercept and Point Slope PDF that makes up option 1 for today's assignment. You also have available option 2, an assignment from the textbook, and option 3, a challenge on Khan Academy. If you feel like you're pretty comfortable with this and you would like to test yourself and potentially earn some extra credit if you do well on it. So for this assignment here, you're given some problem or situation, and then you're given 4 choices to choose from for your answer. And this first one, it asks for what is the y-intercept of this graph. And so we need to remember that the y-axis is this vertical one, x-axis is the horizontal, okay, and the y-intercept is where our line is going to be touching the y-intercept. So think about where it touches the y-intercept and how do we represent that as a coordinate pair. For the next one, which line has a slope of 5 and a y-intercept of -2. So remember that if we have slope and y-intercept, that's going to be our slope-intercept equation form. So it's going to be y equals mx plus b. And remember that m is the slope and b is the y value of our y-intercept. Okay. For p, it says, what is the equation of this line written in slope-intercept form? So once again, slope-intercept form, it's y equals mx plus b. So when you find the slope for this, your slope's going in for m, and the y-intercept where it touches the y-axis, where it hits this axis, that's going to be your b value. And then make sure you think about the direction of the line. Is it going up as we go to the right? What does that mean? Is it going down as we go to the right? What does that mean? And of course, what is your rise over your change in y or your change in x? Y, we've got a slope and a point. So that's going to be what we talked about on Wednesday. Our point slope form. Point slope. Okay. And that is y minus y1, which your y1 is your y value of the point they give you. And then this is equal to our slope, m, times x minus x1. And x1 is the x value of the point that we're given. Okay. Plug those into your point slope form equation and you should be able to identify that one. Finding the slope between 2 points. This is where we're going to use y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. Okay? And so you can do, this is your y2 minus your y1, and then you could do x2 minus x1, or you can do it the other way around. You could have this be your y2 and then subtract 3, and you could have this be your x2 and subtract 2. Doesn't matter which one you call the 2 and which one you call the 1. What does matter is that you match these up. Okay, so if this is your y2, then this has to be your x2. Or if 3 is your y2, then 2 has to be your x2. So just make sure you don't cross the values between the points. This one says which equation matches the graph. So you're going to find a point on the graph, move that into your point slope form, find the slope, and put that in as well. And in particular, if you look at the slope, it should really help you a lot on this one. So find your rise over your run. Here it says which line contains the points 4, 0, and 1, 3. And so if you look at each of these answer choices, they're all in point slope form. And remember that is y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. And in particular, if you notice, most of these have the same y1. We're subtracting 3, so that's going to be, if these are the correct choices, then this y1 would be 3. Okay? So that doesn't really help us a lot. And you'll notice that 3 of them we're subtracting 1, so 1's our x1. But hopefully you've noticed by now that the slope is different on all of these. So find your change in y, your delta y, over your change in x, your delta x. So you can get your slope, and that should narrow that down for you. L, so the zookeeper is tracking different animal populations around the zoo. On the 7th day of tracking, he counts 140 mole rats. On the 15th day, he counts 100. And what is the rate of change? So for this one, we're given some information, and my go-to, and what I encourage you to always do when you get some data like this, is to organize it into a table. And think about which is going to be your dependent and independent variable. Are the days going to depend on the mole rats, or the other way around? Okay, so days are not going to stop because mole rats are doing something different. So days would be our x. Okay, 7, and then say 15, and then you would put the values they give you for these, and then you could figure out your rate of change, your slope, your delta y over delta x. A, use the table to write an equation in slope-intercept form. So remember that slope-intercept form, y equals the slope. So that's going to be your delta y over your delta x. You can get that by looking at how these are changing between each other, and then putting that delta y over delta x. And then the slope is times x plus the y-intercept. Remember that your y-intercept is what's happening with y when x is 0. So they don't tell you what y is when x is 0, but you can figure that out using this table here. Okay. And last one, what is the slope in this equation? And so you notice that we've got y and something equals something parentheses x something. So it should hopefully stand out to you right away that this is in point slope form. And so just think about, if they're just asking about the slope, that's your m. So hopefully this video gives you enough hints. You can complete this. Make sure that you show your work in either case. And I hope to be back Friday. Have a good day.